Hello and welcome to the show. We're back at the Italian rally stage with more of your automation vehicles. We start today with Eric Edwards and the T15 Rally Sedan, the most powerful car of the day at 394 horsepower, the most expensive at 14,994, the limit's 15,000, all-wheel drive, a 3.3 litre turbocharged flat 4 up at the front, and the most interesting exhaust system. Fantastic exhaust work right there. I feel like that's inefficient. But there we go. Interesting exhaust system going on. Big tyres, quite high suspension, might be a bit soft and wobbly and bouncy. It wins the exhaust system challenge, however. Let's go and see how we fare with this one. So there's a fair amount of kind of body movement going on. Little in the way of rear end grip. That's always fun. And brakes were okay for turn. Oh no, I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. We're going to go backwards into this corner. It's fine. It's safer than some cars have been into this corner. Brakes not great is the answer to that. And there was kind of, I went on the brakes initially, and then it really wasn't slowing down, and then there was a bit of panic, and then we got some oversteer, and then we met a wall slowly backwards. I mean, it's quite well controlled, so I guess we have to go really early. Oh, early on the brakes here. Yeah, we are. We're going to be very early on the brakes. So we can kind of get away with a little bit of sliding. Engine is good. Turbocharged engines, of course, turbo lag can be a big problem with automation cars, and around a stage like this, where you have got a lot of these slow hairpins, you really need to have an engine that... The engine and gearing has to be spot on to be quick. It doesn't slow down. Either locks up everything and then goes very sideways, or it doesn't slow down in the slightest. So the brakes are a serious concern with this. The grip isn't really there. However, engine spot on. I'm guessing a lot of money in this went into the engine and compromises were made elsewhere. I mean, 15,000 isn't the most ridiculous budget we could have gone for in terms of cheapness, but you do often have to make compromises. Oh, those brakes do not work. What brakes are on it? Drums, I presume, looking at that. Not... Yeah, okay. It's the first car with all drums. I think we've had a couple of cars with rear drums, maybe, but I'm not sure brakes are where I want to be... Potentially. Oh, it locks the rears before it locks the fronts. That's why we have issues. In fact, the slow-mo has been very helpful to tell me, because I'm just mashing the brake trigger here. The fronts don't actually lock, the rears do, so that's why we're sliding every braking zone. Okay, I've learnt important stuff in this. 27, not the best first run, I'll be honest. However, we did go backwards at one point. So I've got to be very careful with the braking here. Yeah, if it's the rears are locking first, that's really iffy. That's really scary. It's not what you want. You don't want rear brake locking, because that just leads to a spin. I think it's going to be a case of caution. I would say try and make the most of the acceleration. It's not a slow accelerating car. However, uh-oh, trees. We brushed that one. Yeah, it's not a slow accelerating car, but we are really struggling with just quarter speed. You know what? That sideways has helped us slightly. It sounds like a tractor at low revs. It really doesn't sound great through there, but never mind. I thought I could get away with second gear out of that corner. The answer to all of that was very much no. Oh, God, yeah, this is difficult to drive down the stage. It hasn't got any crazy... We're seeing plenty of cars with mad wings going on for fantastic downforce. And, I mean, you're not going all that fast around here. I'd take some downforce, you know, given the option. That's too late on the brakes. I mean, that's where we've stopped for some cars. It's where I've got on the brakes with some vehicles, and this is, I've got to remember how early we need to slow down for just about everything here. Through the chicane we go. It's, I mean, very shortly geared. We actually run out of gears as we come across the finish line. Thankfully, that's all we need. Considering the adventures I'm having with this car, I did expect that to be slower than a 24.5, but there we go. This is the final chance, the final run for the T50. Let's see if I can get things better here. I guess the very short gear ratios help with the turbo. It helps keep the turbo spun up. I'm surprised we couldn't get second out of the hairpin. So I would have thought that would have been, might have just been a fraction too slow. Right, let's go very sideways through there. There's just no grip in the car. I don't know why, whether it's setup related, whether it's some part in, again, whether it's all the money went on the engine and nothing for suspension, nothing for handling related stuff. But we can do kind of these really interesting slow-mo drifts through the hairpins. The second work there, yeah, maybe just bobbling across the inside curb was a silly, or inside curb, inside dirt was a silly idea. Let's just get really, really nice and slowed down through here. I don't really want to bin the car. I definitely don't want to bin the car in the rock faces around here if we can avoid it, of course. Hoping for just a clean run if we can manage that. But it's very, very sketchy. There we are. Nicely does it through there. Now, super, super early on the brakes for this hairpin. Little flicker handbrake. We are through there nicely. Yeah, I feel like this engine in some other cars could be a very, very good combination. This one is struggling a little bit. Through the dirt chicane, we've got some oversteer there. It's going to ping off the wall. It's fine. We'll just keep foot down towards the finish line. There's no grip. There is no grip, and the brakes are iffy in it. Decent, as I said, decent engine, but the rest of the car just did not quite, could not quite contain all of that. Very, very difficult to drive. There we go. There we go. It is completed. It's 3 runs in slightly scary fashion. Up next, we have got the FM Argon Blue Falcon, built by a man in a van. A very good-looking car. An interesting use of this body style. I actually really like the the front end. Interestingly styled. Yeah, as I said, good-looking rally car. This one. Powered by a 3.2-litre naturally aspirated i6 up at the front. It is all-wheel drive, just over 300 horsepower. And not silly exhaust, well, a little wobbly exhaust, but not quite as mad as we have seen previous car. I say a little high suspension. We're on, of course, we are on dirt, we are off-road, although it's not that bumpy down here. It might be slightly less body roll from this. That's kind of what we are hoping for here. Naturally aspirated means we are less like, well, we're not going to be seeing turbo lag. Engine should be better for the hairpins, although ultimately slightly less power. Power is not the most important thing down here. The vehicle does, I just spotted, have ABS, which is an interesting one. It's a choice you had to make when building the cars. If you run ABS, the brakes are generally a little more consistent. Well, you won't lock up, however, braking distances are longer. So I'm going to have to brake earlier, but I'm unlikely to be seeing the spinnings. We're not going to be locking the rear wheels as we were with the previous car. We might, though, have to be chucking... Okay, that doesn't really slow down very well. We might have to be chucking the car into these hairpins quite sideways to get it to carry... Well, I say to get carry speed, to try and make some speed through the course. Yeah, it's... As we said at the very start, when we set out this competition, you can run ABS, and I will run with whatever you've put on the car. I'll turn off the ESC, because that brakes sometimes on Beam. It stops cars from putting any power down. But if you go for ABS, yeah, it gives you a little bit more consistency, perhaps, with the braking. A little bit more safety, but longer brake distances. So, there we go. Yeah, it's just not wanting to stop for this hairpin here. Come on, get out of the hairpin on the exit. Try not to fall into the ditch. Saw that. I've seen that a number of times. This car's a little bit... it's a scruffy... Oh, well, apparently I got the arse of the car through the checkpoint, but not the front. It was going to be a scruffy first run anyway. Well, what we got brake-wise... Oh, they are not big brakes. So it's got... they're tiny brakes. So that's not helping either. Not only have we got some of the difficulties with ABS, they are tiny brakes on a pretty big car. Okay, it's about 27. First run was terrible anyway. If that's the fastest, we're in trouble, shall I say. Let's see what we can do. Well, I say if that's the I will go slower this run, and we will just try and make sure we get through without any silly mistakes here. It feels like I don't have very much in the way of front-end grip here. It feels like we're really, really struggling with... It's on the car. We're struggling for grip in general. I mean, that's 30 miles an hour. That was almost in a tree. That's how much I can't get the front end to turn in. If it does brake sideways, it feels okay. Like, it's not one of those twitchy cars. It's fairly consistent. If I do start sliding it around, I think I can get away with it a little bit. But there's just not a huge amount of turning grip. Right, I'm not going to be flat through here. I don't trust the car, and I think I'm right to not trust the car going flat through there. We'll slow it down. for the chicane. It does feel like it's taking... It does feel like it's very slow in some of these places, but I feel like I kind of have to be, because I just don't have the grip. We are slithering our way through that section. No big slides here. Again, it's another one. The engine's pretty good. Engine is doing kind of what you need it to. There we go. We've really chucked it into the hairpin. I'm making it a little slow on the exit, but I don't think I was making that corner without a big slide through there. We will go early on the brakes through here because there's really not much grip as it accelerates towards the finish line. It is a 25.5 for the Falcon. I don't know if I can get much more speed. I don't know what speed, where I might be able to find speed. I'd like to think I could. I'm not sure where it's going to come from in this car because I just don't have much confidence in this. Unlike with the Nordic Wolf, unlike with some of the very fast cars that have gone through here, I don't have that much confidence in the cars. It's just the grip, the quarter speed that we can take is limited. Braking doesn't help matters, no. However, yeah, that just doesn't feel like it can really get into the corner with all that much speed. And I don't want to chuck it sideways through here because I won't have the grip for this second part. This sort of tightening, long tightening corner, and I don't trust that we will have the grip in the vehicle. Slow it down for the hairpin. Little bit of handbrake, getting it into this one. Oh, don't get carried away though. Yeah, I think we can get away with the handbrake into the... Oh, that's really sketchy as well. That was on the limit of what this car can do, I think, in terms of grip. That was very nearly kind of just wandered my way off the road. It was running out of grip. Early on the brakes through here. This is another deceptively nasty corner. It's still wide midway through. Don't clip the rocks. We're surviving it, but I think surviving is the prime word. There we go, around the hairpin again. It's good enough with that. I do like getting it out of the hairpins, but I just don't trust it enough for a lot of these corners. Here we go, a run towards the finish line. It is, I think, a fairly similar time in the end for the car. Lack grip and braking was difficult. Yeah, not helped by the ABS, no, but also those are some tiny brakes on a big car. Again, potentially somewhere that money was tried to be saved. Great looking car, good sounding car, nice engine. However, just not quite quick enough through the rally stage. The third vehicle to run through the stage today is something a little bit different. Now, we've had many sensible competitors so far running in this. However, the EOZ 1050L Super is a little bit different. Built by EOZCOMPANY. This is kind of a 50s-ish period, vaguely periodly correct car. It has a 1 litre naturally aspirated flat 4 at the front, 45 horsepower going to the front wheels. It is by far and away the cheapest car at $6,500 money, whatever automation uses. It's almost a third of the budget, but of course it's not going to be challenging the 400 horsepower all-wheel drive full-on rally cars. Now, we did see some of these vehicles running in kind of the autocross series. It was kind of curious to see what some of the more accurate to an actual, like a normal road car could do. 45 horsepower. I mean, oh wow, okay, so the brakes, you touch them and it kind of locks up. There's surprisingly more grip than you expect from this one. There is a little bit more grip than I was expecting from it. I guess it's not going very fast, so we can get on the brakes quite late into some corners. We'll probably be flat out for a lot of turns where we haven't been previously. Not sure what tyres, on very narrow tyres. Again, it looks fantastic. It looks the part, that's for sure. Where do we break down here? Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, we still make the hairpin. See, that's... I thought we were having a big crash, and it turns out... I managed to turn the headlights on at some point by accident. Yeah, I thought we were having a big crash. Turns out, it's fine. It's fine. We're definitely flat through that corner. No. Okay, quite a lot of understeer. Quite a lot of understeer through there. I think it's actually taken that hit surprisingly well. Oh, no, I take that back. I take that back. Something's now got in the steering. Okay. So, It did. For a second, it looked like it took that hit with no problem, but it has now buckled out the front wheels. So yeah, we've got very, very small. We've got bigger bloody discs. We've got bigger drums on this, I think, than we had on the previous car with drum brakes, and definitely bigger drums than the car that had discs last time. But actually got vaguely sensible brakes. The steering's knackered, so I'm not going to learn anything with this. It's not going to be astronomically fast. I'm kind of willing to bet, though, it's not going to be the slowest car we have in this series. I'm willing to bet this isn't going to be the slowest car that we have, because while yes, it isn't particularly powerful, it is at least well consistent in terms of the handling. We haven't got anything giantly wrong with it. I might make mistakes with the car. I mean, this has got as much grip turning in as we saw with the Falcon, and that's scary when you consider the speed the Falcon's going. I don't actually quite know how the Falcon, how this has so much grip in comparison. Now, there is a potential for tyres. Now, tyre choice down here is an interesting one, because this isn't really fully off-road. There's been a lot of different tyre compounds run down here. You can make off-road tyres work, however, they can sometimes be very iffy. We've seen some off-road tyred vehicles struggle. You can also make some of the road tyres work. I think sort of the medium compound tyre is perhaps one of the better ones to go for down here. The off-road tyres are really designed for kind of thick mud and whatnot. Again, this is from experience and from what I've seen with cars here. Yeah, the off-road tyres are not really... There's nothing really a must-use down here, I think is probably the fairest way to put it. There's no guarantees you have to run this tyre option. Off-roads can work, but also can be a nightmare for cars, depending on the rest of it. There's on the medium content. I don't think you want slicks. I don't think you want the semi-slick race tyres. I think they won't work down here, I can tell you that much. It's bumbling... That is not even a particularly big crash. A 142. Now, we did clip a wall. I did bend the front wheels a little bit, not as bad as on the first run. I mean, it's a nice car. It's a interesting enough vehicle to drive, and it will probably be the fastest 50s car. I think it's a 54, if I remember correctly. Looking in the... I want to load it up in automation. So, yeah, I mean, for a 50s car, for a 50s normal road car as well, not a sports car or a... kind of American, I was going to say American muscle car, I guess 50s, not quite muscle cars, but the big American boats and whatnot. In fact, it'd probably be faster down here than a big 50s American boat, let's be honest. This will actually turn through these corners. So yeah, I mean, this does actually carry okay speed in a couple of corners. Like, actual mid-corner speed, I reckon this is up there with some of the much sportier cars. However, acceleration-wise, we don't really go all that fast. A little bit of frame rate lag there, very nearly murdered the car on a wall. Into the hairpin we go, and we can't get out of here. We can't get out of these hairpins massively well. I say massively well. There's no power. However, the greatest plus point of no power, front-wheel drive wheel spin's not a problem here. There's barely enough power to spin the wheels, I think. We just boot it and go, and it's fine. There's no front-wheel drive understeer really in this. I guess perhaps because there's not enough power, but yeah, I can get on the power really early in a corner and it's absolutely fine. So it's a well-built, well-set-up front-wheel drive vehicle. Probably wanted second through there. I wasn't sure how short second was. There's a bit of a muppet. On the brakes we go. Little bit of frame rate issues in... I don't know what's going on with Beam at the moment around here. And now it's just the slow amble towards the finish line. I like the car, you know, I like the car. It's not wonky to drive at all, and as I said, I bet it won't be the slowest car through here. It's going to be a 39.999. What a finish. What a finish. I mean, the game rounded up to a 40 dead. We saw it as a 39.999 across the finish line. Yeah, it's... You know, it's not bad. It had more grip than I expected it to. The tyres were working. The setup was working. No power whatsoever. However, I don't think it's a disgrace. I don't think it'll be the slowest car that goes down here, despite the very, very small amount of power. A well thought out vehicle. And our final vehicle to run the course today is called the SPHINX 2.3 Rally, built by LOOKAH. It is a 285 horsepower, all-wheel drive sort of sports car machine. 2.3 litre naturally aspirated V6 up at the front. had quite a lot of naturally aspirated cars today, which is kind of good. Not crazy in terms of power, which might actually make the thing fast. If it can use its 280-ish horsepower, that's probably about the sort of power you want. If you can actually put that down and make the most of it, that will work nicely for the car. We've got some big tyres. They're not rally tyres, though, going on with this, I believe. I'm not quite sure what compound they are, but they are not rally tyres on here. Pretty good looking sports car. Might suffer from the age-old raised up sports car body roll. Depends on how soft the suspension is set up. By the looks of it, a little bit soft. We've got some proper brakes going on. That was kind of a big it's a brake test towards the first corner, just to see what I'm working with. I kind of do that with all of the cars, and this one here is sorted out in terms of slowing down. Oh, there's actual braking and there's grip, and oh, this is nice. I mean, it feels fast. I don't know whether that's just because we've been struggling with quite low grip cars so far today. This actually does feel seriously quick. It makes an epic noise as well, which is always good. Slow down for the hairpin. Now, we shouldn't have trouble getting out of these unless the gearing's all sorts of wonky, which I wouldn't expect from many cars. Basically, you want short gear ratios, pretty much. Oh, there is grip in this car. There is grip, there is speed, there is braking. It's fantastic. There is a little bit of body roll from the vehicle. It's nothing too terrible, but there is just, you can see it shaking a little bit down some of these sections, which is curious. This is not a bumpy road by any means, and the car, it doesn't really feel skittish. We have had a couple of cars that are so stiffly sprung that actually felt very, very skittish down here, despite the fact it's not a bumpy road. This might even be that it's a bit soft in places, and any slight imperfections in the road is just rocking the body. Again, you can see it going down here, which is a little bit weird. Here we are, through the high-speed chicane. It's going to be a pretty quick time, actually, for a first run. A 1:18.3 from the vehicle. It's a fast time. It's a fast time. We're not challenging the sunburst at the moment. We're not challenging the sunburst. Is that a little wheel wobble going? Look at how much that's moving in slow-mo. That's scary. That is a lot of movement going on at the back of the car. No wonder body was moving around a lot. Okay, so there's kind of a lot of suspension movement. It feels very, very nice to drive. I think that might partly be because of the cars we've been driving today is why it feels unbelievably quick. However, so, I mean, 18 is still good. It's not quite at sunburst level, but an 18, anything under 120 really is fast for an automation car down here. Now, we did have a little bit of kind of brake test. So the first run's always a bit of a learning experience. Second gear works well. Engine pulls nicely out of these corners. Of course, naturally aspirated. We don't have any of the turbo lag to worry about. You can sometimes get the gearing wrong. However, the power band in this engine is apparently working nicely. Let's not get carried away too much. However, you know, make the most of the acceleration where we can. Early on the brakes for that. I say early on the brakes. Just got to make sure we get it stopped. If anything, I was a little too early on the brakes through that. It doesn't really want to. I've seen a few cars. I think it's got so much grip that if I actually start sliding it at those low speeds, it's not really sliding past the apex of the hairpin, which we've done with a couple of cars. This is not so happy doing that one. I don't know if I've explained that well what I meant, but never mind. We've got other corners to worry about here. And through the rock face we go. Not quite. Misjudged it. I think we were kind of on a... We were in trouble on this run anyway, and I was just seeing what I could... Again, we kind of balls up the run, so thought I'd throw it at there and see if I could get away with it, but it's a bit too high risk to make that work. Just realised the back of this car reminds me very much of a Silvia. I presume that's because of the lights. I think they're kind of what the S15 had, and I guess kind of the body line. I don't know, it just noticed it then. I hadn't noticed it up until now, particularly if we ignore the very, very wide arches. But yeah, the back is quite Silvia-esque. To me, at least. And there we go, and we're going to have a crash. Right. One more run. Let's not mess up the hairpin. Ideally, don't be a muppet past the rock face. And hope that we can get a decent time out of the car. Yeah, whatever the tyres this is on are working well. It's got some good grip around here. It's probably not the fastest accelerating car that we have had here. It is a little bit down on power. All-wheel drive traction is always good. Of course, for getting out of these turns, and all the fastest cars are going to be all-wheel drive down here. It certainly are putting the power down, you know, nicely. It's making the most of its 280 horsepower. I think some cars with just a little bit more power have been able to use their power that bit better. Like the Scarab, for example, was able to use 350-odd horsepower, and that was also able to get it out of hairpins nicely and whatnot. And that's up at the 115s. Now, Carefully does it through this chicane. I don't want to clip wheels on the rocks. It's very easy. It's very, very easy. All you have to do is run a couple of centimetres wide, and you're clipping the wide arches on a rock face and now potentially tearing a wheel off of the car. Now let's get early on the brakes for here. Get it around the hairpin. That's actually quite a nice exit. There was no... The back end moved around just enough to get it through the hairpin quickly, and then we can get on the power out the other side. It's a little wobble. I don't know what's going on with the suspension. I don't know whether it's setup or parts used, selection of bits. It's a very similar time, actually. Ever so slightly quicker. There's quite that bit of movement going on in the car. It doesn't really seem to affect it, in as far as it still handles nicely. It still drives well. But yeah, the whole thing does kind of move from side to side rather peculiarly. You know what I mean. It's a bit odd. There we go. Bit strange. I'll go with the word I can pronounce. Yeah, but a nice engine, a nice driving car. Feels phenomenally fast compared to the other things that we have driven today. And into the 18th, as I said, still a pretty damn good time for the vehicle. So, on to our leaderboard, and it is the Sphinx that would go fastest of the day. It'll move up into a 7th place, which is certainly not too bad at all with that 118.3. It can't quite keep up with a crazy fast accelerating Mini, but or Carl, the very wide Porsche, but it does beat the Dragon Motors Baby, it does beat the KBM FALCON. It's just a decent, solid, all-round vehicle, really. I mean, compared to the other vehicles, it feels immensely fast, but that is just the luck of the random draw, because the other cars that went today struggled, I think. We'll put it politely. The EOS will go to the bottom, a 140.0. Perhaps not so surprising, but as I said, I don't think it'll stay there necessarily. It was very down on power, but it had more grip in the corners than expected. Both the FM Argon and the T50 Rally both had fairly similar issues. They were difficult to get slowed down and downright scary when it came to the corners. They were just difficult to get around the course, full stop. The Blue Falcon was a very, very nice looking car. However, yeah, in the end it does just lose out to the T50, both in the 24s. They beat the Nebula Lioness, and they beat, well, some of the rear-wheel drive cars. The W90 is actually a little higher up than is on the screen currently. But yeah, they were just difficult to get through the course. That, though, is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.